The night sky was calm, but hidden inside that calm something dangerous was waiting. Humanity had grown used to peace among the stars. Colonies had been built on the moon, on Mars, and on faraway planets. Trade routes stretched between stations. Ships carried food, supplies, and families across the black space. People thought the galaxy was theirs to explore, safe and open. They did not know that danger was already on its way. It started with a signal. At first it was weak, only a strange noise deep in the radio waves. Scientists at a lonely station near the edge of human space were the first to hear it. They tried to decode it, but no pattern could be found. It was not a message, it was not natural, it was like something knocking on the door of the universe, but in a language no one could understand. The scientists sent reports back to Earth. Some people thought it was just interference. Others joked it might be a dying star. But deep inside, fear started to grow. One of the scientists, an old man who had worked his whole life studying signals from the stars, whispered to his young assistant, "This is not a star, something is moving out there." His voice was shaking. Weeks passed, the signal grew stronger. Then, the telescopes caught something. Dark shapes were moving in the void. They were not rocks, they were not comets, they were too straight, too sharp, they were ships, and they were enormous. They did not shine with lights. They did not send greetings, they moved in silence like shadows. News spread quickly. At first governments tried to hide it. They feared people would panic, but rumors could not be stopped. Pilots on deep space routes claimed they saw huge outlines against the stars. A freighter captain swore he saw a ship as big as a mountain drifting past him. But when he tried to send a message, his radio went dead. Families and colonies looked at the night sky and wondered if those shadows were coming for them. On Earth, leaders met in secret rooms. The admirals of the Navy were called. The best scientists were questioned. No one had answers. Who were these visitors? What did they want? Were they friends or enemies? The silence of the black shapes gave no comfort. The first contact was not words, it was blood. A small scout ship called Horizon was sent to approach the shadows. The crew was brave. 5 men and women trained for exploration. Their last transmission was a short scream and then nothing. Days later, a piece of their ship was found drifting, melted like wax under fire. Fear grew. Ordinary people began to ask questions. Were these shadows here to destroy? Or were they hunters just watching? Old books about ancient wars were pulled out. People remembered stories of conquest and invasion. Some prayed, some prepared weapons, but most simply waited. The waiting was the worst, because no one knew when the shadows would arrive. Then came the night when the sky itself seemed to break. At the edge of the solar system, where Pluto circled in silence, strange lights appeared. They were not stars, they were engines, hundreds of them, burning bright for the first time. The alien fleet had entered human space. A listening post on Neptune's moon Triton was the first to see them. The soldiers there froze in their chairs as their screens filled with massive images. Ships shaped like blades, black and sharp, each one bigger than a city. Moving together like a swarm, the officer in charge whispered, "They are here." Before sending the alarm to Earth, the alarm spread faster than light. Every station, every colony, every base received the message. The shadows were real. They were here, and they were coming closer. Panic started. Crowds filled the streets on Earth. Families and colonies tried to pack and escape. But where could they go? There was no safe place, no corner of the stars untouched. Yet in the middle of fear, some people stood firm. Admirals ordered fleets to prepare. Scientists began working day and night, trying to understand the strange energy around the alien ships. Politicians made speeches, promising unity, but everyone knew the truth. Humanity was facing an enemy that did not speak, did not stop, did not care. As the alien fleet moved slowly toward the inner planets, people whispered stories. Some said the aliens were machines. Some said they were demons. Others believed they were conquerors who had destroyed other civilizations before. No one knew, but one truth was clear: the age of peace was over. The part ended with a single moment of terror and silence. On the largest telescope near Jupiter, a young operator watched as the alien fleet turned. For the first time, the shadows pointed their ships directly toward Earth. The operator's hands shook. His voice broke as he sent the final message to his commanders. "They are coming," he said, and the signal spread across every screen. The world held its breath. The hook was set. Humanity was about to face its darkest hour, and the future of mankind rested in the hands of a fleet not yet ready, but soon to be remembered forever as the fleet that saved mankind. The alarms kept echoing across every world, but after the first shock, a strange silence took over. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of people holding their breath, waiting for something they could not stop. The alien ships had entered human space. Yet they did not speak. They did not send warnings. They did not attack right away. They only moved forward, like hunters who had already chosen their prey. In the colonies, people crowded in front of screens. The news channels showed the same images again and again. Dark shapes gliding through the void, blacker than the space around them. Some children cried, asking their parents if monsters were coming. Others whispered that maybe the aliens would not harm anyone. Maybe they were explorers like humans had once been, but no one could explain why explorers would arrive in silence. On Earth, the great cities buzzed with fear. Leaders met in secret councils. The military wanted to strike first, but the politicians hesitated. No one wanted to begin a war that might not be necessary. Yet every hour that passed without a word from the strangers made the silence heavier. It was like watching storm clouds gather without rain. The first act of invasion was not fire, it was disappearance. Ships that sailed close to the alien fleet simply vanished. No explosions, no wreckage, no signals. They entered the dark zone, and they never returned. At first, commanders thought it was technical failure, but then a convoy of 3 freighters and 2 escorts went missing at once. Entire families who had been traveling to the outer colonies were gone in a blink. Whispers turned into fear, and fear turned into anger. People asked, why are our ships not fighting back? But the admirals knew the truth. They had no clear target. The aliens flew in formation but did not break off. They gave no pattern, no weakness. If humans attacked blindly, they could waste their whole fleet on a shadow. A small hope came when a crippled vessel appeared near Saturn. Its hull was torn and melted, its engines barely alive. It was one of the scout ships that had been sent weeks before. The rescuers pulled it aboard and found only 2 survivors out of 12. Their suits were burnt, their voices broken. One of them repeated the same word again and again. War, war, war. Before falling silent forever, the survivors' recordings were shown to the High Council. The images were blurry, but they revealed flashes of alien weapons, beams of light that cut metal like paper. The ships looked even larger up close, their surfaces shifting like living skin. The admirals finally understood. This was not a peaceful fleet, it was an army. When the news reached the people, the silence broke. Riots began in some cities. Colonies demanded protection. Some governors even declared independence, saying they would fight on their own if Earth did not defend them. The unity of humanity started to crack, which was exactly what the aliens wanted, divide before the strike. But in the middle of chaos, some leaders rose with calm voices. One of them was Admiral Rian, an old commander who had fought in the last human civil war. He stood before the cameras and said, "If we fight each other, we are already dead. If we stand as one, we still have a chance." His words spread across colonies and stations, and for a moment people listened. Still, the invasion crept closer. The alien fleet reached Neptune's orbit, then Uranus, never slowing, never breaking formation. They moved like a wall of shadow, swallowing the stars behind them. The solar system had never felt so small. Strange events began to occur. Communications near the alien fleet went dead. Radio signals twisted into static. Entire satellites stopped responding. Some scientists believed the aliens were using energy fields that bent not only light but sound. Others feared they were already inside human systems, listening, learning, waiting. Pilots spoke of nightmares when they patrolled near the dark zone. They saw visions inside their helmets, whispers in their ears. Some swore the ships were alive, with eyes hidden in the black metal. Many of those pilots never returned from patrol. The enemy was not only strong in weapons, but in fear. At last, the first clash could not be avoided. A group of human ships was ordered to guard a mining colony near the edge of Saturn. Hundreds of families lived there. If the aliens struck, it would be slaughter. The defenders waited in silence, their hands shaking over the controls. Then the shadows came. It happened without warning. The alien ships appeared like knives cutting through space. Weapons fired, light brighter than the sun. Human shields cracked, hulls melted. In minutes, half the defending fleet was gone. The colony screamed for help, but their signals were drowned in static. One captain, desperate to save at least some lives, turned his ship toward the aliens and rammed them at full speed. The explosion lit the dark sky for a brief moment. It did not stop the invasion, but it bought time for the colony's transports to escape. That captain's name was never forgotten, though most of the galaxy did not even know his face. After that night, no one doubted anymore. The aliens were not guests, they were conquerors. Their silence had been the silence of predators waiting for the kill. Humanity could no longer sit and hope. They would have to unite or they would vanish. The silent invasion was no longer silent. It was only the beginning of a war that would decide whether mankind had a future among the stars. And as the alien fleet pushed deeper into the system, every human heart knew one truth. The greatest battle in history was coming. The colony near Saturn still burned in memory. Families spoke the names of those lost, and the whole system felt the weight of silence. Humanity had faced storms before, civil wars, plagues, disasters, but nothing like this. This enemy came without words, without reason, only with endless ships that moved closer each day. People realized that waiting would mean death, and that fear alone could not protect them. On Earth, the Great Council of Nations was summoned. Leaders who had once argued about borders and trade now sat in the same hall. Screens around them showed the alien fleet moving slowly but surely toward the inner worlds. Every leader knew that their own power meant nothing if mankind itself was erased. The choice was clear. They must unite. But unity was not easy. Old wounds bled. Some colonies blamed Earth for ignoring their warnings. Mars accused Earth of trying to control every decision. Outer stations said they had been abandoned when the first attacks came. The council nearly broke apart in shouting. Some wanted to surrender, hoping mercy might be found. Others wanted to fight with everything, even if it meant the end. In the middle of the noise, Admiral Rian stood. His voice was calm but hard. He had seen too many battles to waste time. "Listen," he said. "If we break apart now, we are already defeated. The enemy wants us divided. They want us weak. We must stand as one, or none of us will stand at all." His words cut through the noise like a blade. For the first time, silence filled the council chamber. Slowly, agreements were made. Mars promised ships, Earth promised resources, the outer colonies promised men and women who would fight. Every side gave something. And for the first time in history, humanity began to build one single fleet. It was called the Grand Armada. Engineers worked without sleep. Old warships were pulled out of docks, upgraded with stronger shields and new weapons. Civilian ships were converted into carriers. Cargo freighters were turned into armored transports. Workers in shipyards hammered metal with the thought that every plate might save a life. Children carried parts. Elders cooked for crews. Everyone gave what they could. Across the system, training began. Young pilots learned to fly in formations they had never practiced before. Soldiers drilled for boarding actions. Technicians studied alien signals night and day. Trying to find a weakness, humanity had little time, but every hour was used. Stories spread like fire. A miner from the belt volunteered his small ship, saying he would ram it into the enemy if needed. A teacher from Mars signed up as a medic, promising she would heal every soldier she could. On Earth, students left classrooms to join the defense forces. "This is our home," they said. "We will not run." The spirit of unity began to grow stronger than fear. Still, doubt lingered. The alien fleet was vast. No human had ever seen so many ships in one place. Some officers whispered that the Grand Armada was only a candle against a storm. But Rian reminded them, "A candle in the dark is still light, and light spreads." When the first ships of the new fleet gathered near Jupiter, the sight was breathtaking. Thousands of vessels lined up, their engines glowing like stars, warships from Earth, cruisers from Mars, mining ships from the belt, freighters converted into carriers, all pointed in the same direction. Waiting for orders, it was not perfection, but it was hope. People watched across the system. Families and colonies gathered around screens to see the Armada. Children drew pictures of the ships, whispering that they would save everyone. For a moment, fear gave way to pride. Humanity had done something it had never managed before. It had become one. The admirals met to plan the defense. Some argued to stay close to Earth. Others said they must meet the enemy far away. Rian spoke last. "If we wait, the aliens will crush us planet by planet. If we strike now, together, we can show them humanity is not prey. We fight them in the void, not on our homes." His plan was bold, risky, but it carried the spirit of unity. The others agreed. Preparations were made for the largest jump in history. The Armada would leave Jupiter's orbit and move to intercept the alien fleet before it reached the inner planets. Messages were sent to every family. Every man and woman in the fleet wrote words for loved ones. Many of those messages would never be delivered, but they gave strength to hearts that trembled. The day of departure came. Engines lit across the dark sky. Space shook with the power of thousands of ships rising together. From Earth to Mars to the colonies, people watched with tears in their eyes, knowing that their future was flying into danger. As the Armada moved, a single message was broadcast across every channel. It was Admiral Rian's voice, strong and steady. We are humanity. We do not bow. We do not break. We stand together, and we fight for every child, every parent, every dream we have built among the stars. Today we march into the dark, and together we will bring back the light. The message ended, but its echo filled every heart. The fleet was gone, vanishing into the black, moving to meet the shadows. The call to unity was complete. Humanity was no longer many voices. It was one, and soon, the one voice would roar in battle. The Grand Armada left Jupiter behind, its engines burning like a second sunrise in the dark. The silence inside the ships was heavy, thousands of men and women waiting for the order that would throw them into history. Some whispered prayers, some wrote last words. Others simply stared at the stars, knowing they might never see them again. The alien fleet was waiting near a dead star system, a place where suns had burned out millions of years ago. The void there was colder, darker, as if the universe itself had forgotten it. It was the perfect battlefield for shadows, and the aliens had chosen it well. Their ships drifted together, black knives against the emptiness, their surfaces shifting as if alive. They made no moves, no sound, just a wall of darkness. When the Armada arrived, the admirals saw the enemy's size for the first time. The shadows were not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands. They stretched across the void, blocking out constellations. For a moment, despair cut through every human heart. Could light ever fight such endless night? Admiral Rian gave the order. His voice was steady. Form up, shields high, weapons ready. Today the galaxy will learn what it means to face mankind. His words spread through the channels, filling every crew with iron. The Armada formed lines, carriers in the back, cruisers at the sides, and the heavy battleships in the front. Engines burned bright, and the human fleet shone like a constellation of its own. The aliens struck first, beams of light, thin and sharp, lanced across the black, slicing through shields as if they were paper. A human destroyer exploded instantly. Its crew lost without even time to scream. Dozens of smaller ships followed. Their wrecks burned like dying stars before fading into silence. But humanity did not break. The first volley had been expected. Human ships twisted into new positions, using asteroids as cover, returning fire with cannons that lit the void red and gold. The soundless clash became a storm of color. The aliens moved like hunters, silent and precise, but the humans moved like survivors, desperate and cunning. One squadron of fighters broke formation and flew straight into the enemy lines, weaving between alien fire. They carried old nuclear warheads strapped to their wings. Weapons thought too dangerous to use. The squadron's leader shouted one word: "For Earth." Before the comms went silent, a blinding flash followed, tearing through several alien ships. For the first time, the shadows bled fire. The Armada cheered, courage returning. Humanity could hurt them, humanity could fight. The admirals ordered the fleet forward, pressing the attack. Battleships fired broadside after broadside, their cannons shaking space itself. Carriers unleashed waves of fighters, tiny sparks against a mountain of black. The aliens shifted, adapting. Their ships began to bend and twist, forming new shapes. They moved like one mind, no hesitation, no confusion. Every human tactic was answered with terrifying speed. But humanity had something the shadows did not: creativity. Admiral Rian commanded a feint, sending half the fleet into retreat. The aliens followed, chasing what they thought was weakness, but hidden behind a cluster of asteroids. The other half of the Armada waited. When the aliens came close, the trap was sprung. Weapons lit the sky, alien hulls cracked, explosions tore through their formations. It was a victory, but a small one. For every alien ship that fell, 10 more loomed behind. The void was still crowded with shadows. The Armada was losing ships fast, whole crews sacrificing themselves to hold the line. Names that would never be remembered gave everything in that hour. On one carrier, a young pilot named Lena saw her squadron wiped out. Her ship was damaged, alarms screaming. Instead of ejecting, she turned her fighter around, aimed at the heart of a massive alien cruiser, and drove herself into it. The blast shook the battlefield, and for a moment the humans saw the enemy falter. Her name spread later across every colony as a symbol of courage. Hours passed. The battle raged without pause. The void filled with burning wrecks, shattered metal and drifting bodies. But humanity stood. They had not fled. They had not broken. The Armada was bloodied but still burning. The aliens had learned something new: humanity would not kneel. As the battle dragged on, scouts reported something chilling. The alien fleet was even larger than anyone had guessed. The shadows behind the main line stretched further. More ships arriving from deep space. Humanity had fought with everything, and yet they had only faced the first wave. Admiral Rian listened in silence. His crew waited for him to speak. His eyes were hard, but his voice was steady. "We have shown them our fire. We have shown them our unity. And they have learned that mankind is not prey. We live today, but the war is far from over." The order was given to retreat. The armada pulled back, dragging its wounded ships and survivors with it. The aliens did not chase. They had been hurt, but not destroyed. The void grew quiet again, the silence heavier than before. On every human world, people waited for news. When the message came, they learned two truths: humanity could fight, and humanity could bleed. The first clash had ended, but the war had only begun. The story of that battle spread like fire. Songs were written, stories told. Children learned the names of the lost, and the message was clear: humanity was fragile, but not broken, weak, but not defeated. The fleet had stood against shadows and lived, and though the cost was terrible, hope was still alive. But deep in the black, the alien fleet gathered again. More ships joining, more shadows spreading. The war was not a storm passing by. It was a tide, endless and rising, and humanity had only seen the beginning. The first great clash had ended, but the scars it left behind were deep. Wreckage of human ships drifted in the void like graves without names. Families across Earth and the colonies mourned. Yet even as tears fell, preparations for the next battle began. Humanity understood that survival would demand more than bravery. It would demand sacrifice. The alien fleet pressed onward, endless and tireless. Their numbers grew with every day, as if the shadows themselves were birthing new ships. The Grand Armada regrouped near the moons of Saturn, damaged but not broken. The admirals knew they had won only time, not safety. Every commander could see the truth. If the aliens reached Earth, it would be the end. In that dark hour, ordinary people became legends. Entire crews volunteered for missions they knew would never bring them back. Their names were written on walls of steel inside the fleet's command ships, not as soldiers, but as guardians of mankind. One miner from the belt offered his freighter as a decoy, saying, "If I can buy 1 hour for the rest of you, then my life is worth it." His ship never returned, but his sacrifice delayed an alien advance long enough for the armada to regroup. The engineers, too, became warriors. They built weapons from scraps, turned broken hulls into traps, and loaded old ships with explosives, ready to send them on one-way journeys into the enemy. Shipyards rang not only with hammers but with goodbyes. Fathers embraced their children for the last time before stepping onto doomed vessels. Mothers kissed their families and whispered, "Remember me when the stars are safe again." The admirals devised a desperate plan. The alien fleet had a core, a massive ship believed to be its flagship, larger than a city. It pulsed with strange energy, and human scientists believed it commanded the swarm. Destroying it might break the enemy's formation, perhaps even end their march, but to reach it, humanity would have to cut through an ocean of shadows. Volunteers were called. Thousands stepped forward, not one hesitating. They knew the mission was near impossible, but they also knew it was the only hope. Admiral Rian himself stood before them, his voice steady. "We ask for courage beyond courage. We ask for those who will go where no one can return. For every life you give, humanity takes one step closer to survival. If you go as heroes." The first wave of sacrifice came in the battle near Titan. Human scouts discovered a line of alien carriers blocking the path. To clear the way, a squadron of destroyers charged head-on, their captains refusing to fire until they were point blank. The explosion lit the dark sky brighter than Saturn's rings. 3 carriers shattered, and the armada pressed through. But none of the destroyers returned. In the middle of the battle, smaller stories shone like stars. A medic ship stayed behind under fire, treating the wounded from burning cruisers. Its commander refused to retreat, shouting, "We do not leave them." The ship was lost minutes later, but hundreds survived because of their defiance. On another front, a father and son flew together in twin fighters, covering each other as they cut a path through enemy drones. When the father's ship was hit, he ordered his son to keep going. His last words were, "Make it matter." The sun did, leading the survivors to safety. The enemy pushed harder. Their weapons tore through hulls. Their beams burned through shields. But each time the shadows struck, humanity answered with sacrifice. Old freighters rammed into cruisers. Crippled ships turned themselves into bombs. The void became a graveyard of fire. But every sacrifice bought time. At last, the Armada reached the edge of the enemy's core. The flagship loomed before them. So vast it blocked entire constellations. Its surface shifted like black waves, alive and watching. The energy it gave off shook the human ships. Even their instruments faltered. Some soldiers swore they heard whispers in their minds, like the ship itself was speaking to them, promising death. The admirals gave the order. The final assault had begun. Waves of fighters launched. Cannons thundered. Nuclear fire lit the dark. Human ships dove again and again, breaking against the massive hull. One battleship, already burning, rammed straight into the flagship's flank, tearing a wound into its armor. The captain's last transmission was simple. "Tell them we fought to the last breath." The flagship reeled but did not fall. Its weapons cut through the Armada. Hundreds more lives ended in seconds. Humanity's hope trembled on the edge of breaking. Yet still they came, wave after wave, sacrifice after sacrifice, each one making the enemy bleed a little more. In the command room of the flagship carrier Resolute, Admiral Rian stood silent, watching the chaos. His officers begged for orders. He finally spoke, his voice filled with both sorrow and iron. "We are outnumbered, we are outgunned, but we are not out of courage. If today is the end, then let us make it a story they will never forget." The Armada surged one last time. Ships that could barely move still threw themselves into the fight. Fighters with no ammunition rammed into enemy hulls. Transports carried explosives into the core. The void became a storm of fire and sacrifice. The alien flagship trembled, its black skin cracking under the relentless human will. The price was terrible, but the truth was clear. Humanity had discovered its greatest weapon. Not technology, not numbers, but the courage to give everything. The sacrifice of the few gave hope to the many, and the legend of those who fell that day spread across the stars. The battle was not finished. The flagship was still alive. The Armada had been broken, but not destroyed. Humanity had bled more than ever before. But in the blood and fire, one truth blazed brighter than the stars. The fleet would not stop, humanity would not bow, and sacrifice had lit the path to victory.